Hello and welcome to another video from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Today I'm joined by Neale to discuss the latest team news ahead of Gameweek 25. Neale, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, how's things your end?
Yes, good. Full of excitement for double Gameweek 25. Although those that saw the Scoutcast this week, actually the reality is that all of us aren't very excited at all. We think it's a bit of a trap. For a lot of players, but I'll probably fall into it anyway. But let's have a look at the latest team news. So we'll start with Manchester United because there were some concerns around Pogba, very well owned, and to a lesser extent Martial as well. So what's the latest from Solskjaer about the injuries ahead of their trip to Leicester?
Yeah, so Andy Martial was missing in midweek. He's been back in training, he's done some rehab work. They're going to assess him before the weekend. But the big one that most people are probably concerned about, I think Pogba is the second highest owned midfielder in FPL now. He completed 90 minutes against Burnley. Didn't seem to be any problem. He was sort of struggling a bit during the game, but seemed to brush it off and then went on to score a penalty. And now the reports came out after the match that he was seen holding his groin in the mix zone and sort of hobbling a bit. Like he might have just had an itch or something. But there was sort of the rumours circled after that he sort of pulled something or strained something. And we heard from Solskjaer this morning that he's basically downplayed the severity of it. He said that he doesn't think there's going to be anything serious. He still has to do a training session today. And that's why the sort of flag remains on Pogba and FPL. But it sounds promising. Solskjaer basically saying he's optimistic of both of those players being available for Leicester on Sunday.
Well, that sounds good because I know that I believe that Pogba had been sent for scans.
Apparently, Better reported this.
So presumably they came back and said nothing wrong. So if he's training fine, then that's good news. Okay, that's good. I shall hang on to him then. So let's move over to the other side of Manchester. Manchester City have 2 games, so we definitely want to know about their players. So what has Pep been saying ahead of those 2 matches?
Okay, yeah, they're only confirmed absentee through injury is Vincent Kompany, who's been out for a little while. Everyone else has trained, so he's got a fully fit squad to choose from. Now, the caveat to that is Benjamin Mendy, who came back against Burton in the dead rubber of a second leg and played half an hour of that. Then he missed a couple of days training, wasn't involved in the FA Cup or Game Week 24. Now, Guardiola said he's trained the last couple of days, but as we've come to expect from the Manchester City manager, that's as much as he's going to give us. He says he doesn't know whether he's going to be fit to start a Premier League game. Now, obviously, as you were saying there, it's a double game week, so he's got 2 bites at the cherry, really. But we are not particularly any further forward than we were last week. Again, there's a flag remaining on FPL, 75%. That sounds about right. We might see him possibly against Everton. I think there's more of a chance of that. I think given that game is sandwiched by Arsenal and Chelsea. It remains to be seen. Nothing definite on Mendy, but he's at least training with the rest of the squad. So he sounds like he's not a million miles away.
So that sounds like, in terms of looking for getting Mendy in, it's very unlikely he'll play 2. Yeah. That could have knock-on effects for Sane as well, because Sane did miss a few games when Mendy was fit and raring to go. So that fills me with a bit more hope that Sane will get 2 starts. And I guess with Danilo and Zinchenko, those are the kinds of backups for Mendy so far. So obviously raise the prospect that one of those might get at least 1 or maybe 2 starts.
Yeah, Danilo is he sort of performed quite well over the last month. He was one of those players, a bit like sort of Gundogan, who was not maligned, but it wasn't one of the sort of City favourites. But he's arguably been the best fullback over the past month. He switched from left to right occasionally. He's played instead of Kyle Walker. But yeah, Delph and Zinchenko have sort of been sidelined a bit through Danilo's form. So I think if Mendy isn't quite ready to feature, then it'll be Danilo mostly at
I
left back.
must admit, I am quite tempted because at least he has some attacking threat. He has some kind of assist
Yeah.
potential as well. Now, what about Arsenal? That, as you mentioned, they're one of the teams that City are facing. Once again, I think we do this every week. How are their defence shaping up? Because obviously that's key for City's attacking assets.
Yeah. Now we mentioned Mendy's possible comeback has been possibly bad news for Sane. But on the positive side, Arsenal's right back situation doesn't look particularly good. But they've lost Bellerin for what looks like the season. Maitland-Niles is needing to be assessed. He's got a knee injury. So they will likely either have Stefan Lichtsteiner, a veteran fullback, or Carl Jenkinson,
Ooh,
the prodigal son, who's emerged from nowhere. He
he's still
was on the
there.
bench in midweek and then he came on against Cardiff.
Honestly, I had no idea he was still at Arsenal. Okay, well that sounds really good news.
Yeah,
for
so
the
that's obviously
City
down
attack.
Sane's side on the City left. Elsewhere, Koscielny looks like he's back. He had a jaw injury which caused him to miss out in midweek, but he's back in full training. So you might expect him to come in for Monreal perhaps at centre back. Mkhitaryan, he's also back in training as well, so he's going to be assessed. But you wouldn't expect him to sort of play anything other than a bench role.
Has there been any indication whether their new player Suarez, who's very very kindly priced, I think at 6.5, very temptingly priced, could he start?
Well, we're still. Last time I checked, we were still waiting on the Arsenal press conference. It was due to take place earlier, but I think because of snow,
Oh,
it was delayed. So we haven't heard about Suarez yet.
oh.
So we'll keep you posted on that one on the site. But yeah, I'm just checking now. I can't see anything
No.
as we film this.
Okay, so once again, I mean, with all of these that we're not sure of at the moment, keep checking the site, keep checking our Twitter feed. We'll have all that information there. Moving over to West Ham, tricky tie at home to Liverpool. But Arnautovic was a concern. Fabianski as well. Now that is a concern for. There's quite a few people out there with with one working goalkeeper, Fabianski, and they paired him up with someone hopeless who never plays. So they're quite nervously awaiting that. So is Fabianski going to play?
I am one of those managers. I've got David Button on my bench, who looks very much like he's back on the as a substitute now with Matt Ryan returning. Yeah, Fabianski looks like he's going to be all right, which is good news. Pellegrini said he hasn't worked 100% in training today, but they've got another session tomorrow, and the fact that they're playing on Monday gives him a few extra days to recover as well. But he thinks he's going to be fine. It appeared less sure about Arnautovic. He says that it's a question for the doctor now. They're going to see if he can actually take to the training pitch on Saturday. So that looks more of a worry, I think. And you do wonder whether he would risk Arnautovic away at Liverpool and save him for sort of more winnable games to come.
Okay. That doesn't. I mean, last time I saw him, he was hobbling around on crutches. So
he had a projective cast on, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, that didn't look good. I think it's time to turn to Liverpool now. So obviously West Ham's opponents. Alexander-Arnold, a few people still hanging on to him. They were hoping he's going to be back. Is he going to be back? And there's a few other injuries as well. I mean, especially Gomez, I think, might be out. And who on earth? Any hints of who will play right back? We had Henderson there last time, so who's next?
Yeah, well, on that front, they do have James Milner coming back from suspension, so I would think he would come back in at right back because Gomez and Alexander-Arnold are still going to be out. Now, we've come full circle with Alexander-Arnold. I think when he first got injured, it was the middle of January, I think, and media reports suggested he was going to be out for a month. Klopp then very soon afterwards said, he's actually not too bad. He's back in contention. He hasn't featured since. He's not going to be available this weekend. They are hoping that he'll return to full training next week. So he could be in line for return on the 9th of February, I think it is. That's Gameweek 20.
Round about a month.
Exactly, round about a month.
So
exactly,
you know
yeah.
The cynic in me says that Klopp was covering himself because Alexander-Arnold in that game was injured in the warm-up. He then played.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it was an injury down and Klopp said, oh no, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Perhaps he shouldn't have been playing that match, Jurgen.
You might be right, yeah. And Gomez, incidentally, he's I think he had a sort of minor setback. A journalist asked him if he would be available for the Bayern game, the sort of Champions League, and Klopp was doubtful about that, so they haven't got a return date set on him. So it looks like he's going to be sidelined for a while. But Alexander-Arnold, not this weekend, but possibly Gameweek 26.
So who will the right back be?
I think Milner.
Ooh.
I think Milner. Henderson did play there in midweek. He got a lot of plaudits, particularly from his manager, and he did have a sort of decent game going forward. Before I actually watched the game, and from what I saw, I mean, Leicester got a lot of joy down that left. Chilwell and Gray, I think it was, down that side of it. Sort of it had a lot of success down that wing. So I wonder if we'll see Milner back there, or possibly even Fabinho, who was well enough for the bench in midweek, but he should be recovered from whatever ailed him in midweek.
Now, amongst the single game week stars that a lot of people are looking at in game week 25 is Son at Spurs. Currently the best of their attacking assets. He's fit, but suffering from fatigue. He's been playing like non-stop for well over a year now for country and club. Has there been anything there from Pochettino about Son's availability?
Nothing fresh today, really. We saw after the game that he'd been suffering with cramp, which is what you would expect after his busy January. And then Pochettino said it's a question of whether he plays from the start or on the bench. Yeah, so he said pretty much a similar thing before the Watford game, and still played. So I fully expect him to be involved. He said he was, he's expecting him to be tired in that game against Watford, but he was one of the sort of freshest players on the show, performed really well. And I do think that they can't really afford to slip up now that they sort of pegged Liverpool and City back a bit in the title race. Then I think he'll play. Yeah, I think we'll delve into the press conference a bit more this afternoon. But from what I've seen so far, there's nothing to suggest he's going to miss out on him. Yeah.
Just looking elsewhere, going back to the fixtures. A player I'm quite interested in seeing is Batshuayi, who's joined Palace. Have we had anything from Hodgson about whether he possibly will be starting or in the squad?
Yeah, possibly. I noticed he's got added to FPL this morning, 6.5. That seems a little bit steep, but he's an interesting prospect actually. Hodgson said he thinks he's going to be fit. He's going to meet him on Friday. And he's been playing for Valencia earlier this season. So it's not like he's been out in the cold at Chelsea and not playing. So he'll make a decision on him this afternoon and tomorrow. But he sounds like he's in contention to feature.
Now, he hasn't been in good scoring form for Valencia this season, which is a bit of a worry because he's been fantastic before that, really. He's always looked quite impressive, especially when he moved on initially from Chelsea. And in some of the games he had for Chelsea, he still looked pretty good. One I'm definitely looking out for. Anything else? I mean, what about Chelsea as well? Perhaps not on the injury front, but has Sarri had anything to say for his team's appalling performances recently?
Yeah, quite a lot to say. It was apologetic in nature to the fans and fairly damning towards his players as well. As I think I wrote in the scout notes to make there's something not quite right at that club. It sounds like a bit of a toxic atmosphere, which we've seen before at Chelsea. So there was various comments about him saying that the players need to learn to stop being in a counter-attacking side, which they were under Conte. How the front three were playing too narrow. How he sort of wants the players to sort of change their mentality. And we heard him after the game against Bournemouth saying he doesn't know if he can motivate his players. So there's a lot of negatives associated with Chelsea assets at the moment. It sounds like not a nice place to be in.
No.
Although they do have a very good fixture this weekend at home to Huddersfield.
Yeah, I mean, God, if he doesn't get a result then...
Yeah, like maybe a goner. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because basically a key part of his job is to motivate his players. If he can't do that, then...
Well, yeah, that's his job.
See you later, mate. Perhaps someone else can. What about Everton? Because obviously they've got two fixtures as well. So we know that Luca Dean is going to miss one of those, definitely. But Baines was an injury doubt as well, so you would think he would play possibly both those fixtures. But any update there around Everton's players? Yeah,
Baines came off with, I think it was a hip injury in that game, which forced Deeney onto the field, and then he got his red card. He'll get assessed. He's going to have a late check before their first game. of the double. They are going to be missing Jalki and Yerry Mina, which I think sort of knocks on the head, and he's suggesting that he might go to a wing-back system against City. So Dina will be suspended tomorrow. Baines will get an assessment. If he doesn't make it, they'll possibly have John Joe Kenny at left back, he's ostensibly a right-footed defender, or at least he plays at right back normally, which would be positive if you're a Doherty owner. They're playing Wolves, and he's at the right wing back, and he'd be up against the left back position for Everton. So that's one to watch. But it sounds like Baines, it isn't a serious injury, and if he doesn't feature against Wolves, he may be back in contention against City.
Okay. I guess there's also, it's of worth as well, because someone of Baines's experience as well. Maybe he hasn't got quite the legs that he used to have, but he could possibly be a better option for Everton's defence against City, because Luca Dean has been. The matches I've seen, he seems to have given the ball away in silly places, and lots of slip-ups recently.
He had a bad game against Millwall, didn't he? He gave away 2 silly free kicks, but I think Baines actually played quite well past a couple of games, so he's
And just before we go, anything else of note?
Yeah, I think that people have already seen by now that Callum Wilson's going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay,
he's had a knee operation. There was no update on David Brooks specifically, but Howe did say that we're in the same position as they were last week, so that suggests he's going to be all right. Looking around elsewhere, Warnock said that Camarasa was still struggling. He's a lot of people's sort of budget bench fodder option, and they might have been looking at that fixture. Bournemouth at home is a possible potential to play him, so he's not certain to feature. And apart from that, slim pickings. I think I'll round everything up on the team news roundup on 5 o'clock, and I'll have all the team news predictions written up by this evening as well. But
great.
As far as the main FPL players, I don't think there's much to report.
Great for that. Thanks for that. And good reminder there. Do keep checking the website. Do keep checking what we've got to say on Twitter as well. So we'll get all the latest updated as and when we know. But in the meantime, thanks so much for joining me, Neil, and good luck for the double game week.
Yeah, good luck to you too. See you soon.